Okay, let me share my computer and start. Okay. So today the topic is on the correlation. Okay, so we already went through few types of correlation. We understood the basics of correlation. So now we are going to cover rest of the types of correlation. Okay. So now what is this particular rest of the types of correlation? Why we require so many correlations? One thing which we need to understand by now is all these particular algorithms are not only dependent on what exactly we are trying to investigate, it is also dependent on the type of data that we are dealing with. So we also know that there are various types of data, which are like quantitative data, qualitative data. Quantitative data is much more mathematical in nature, whereas you know qualitative data can be ordinal, like ranks. It can be nominal, just the names of it, right? So there are various types of data. So now, depending upon the type of the data, we need to choose the algorithm that we are going to deal with. So whenever we are talking about choosing the algorithm, yes, we need to first determine what exactly we are trying to do, and then determine what are the things that I'm going to investigate, what is the type of data that I'm going to investigate, and then you choose that, oh yeah, I'm going to actually do this, so hence I need to do this particular algorithm, right? So if you see this particular diagram, so we are talking about correlation. So that means what are the problem statement that we are actually trying to investigate? We are trying to investigate the relationship between two variables or more variables. It can be even more variables, right? So now, so first we will talk about a simplified version, two variables. So I have two variables. I have a bank balance. I have a hair count. So I'm trying to check whether number of hair on the head really indicates something about the bank balance. So we also know that correlation doesn't talk about causation. It is only telling that, okay, yeah, so and so variable is having correlation with so and so variable, and it is positively correlated or negatively correlated, and it is weak correlation or a strong correlation. Okay. So now, previously we went through Pearson's correlation. Pearson correlation is mainly for the when the data is quantitative data. That means you can do all sort of operations. You can actually do multiplication, division, subtraction, etc., etc. And it is actually a normally distributed data. So then Pearson correlation really comes into the play. So what it means is when you have data which is of quantitative nature, then Pearson correlation really come into picture. So Pearson correlation deals with the quantitative data. Okay, so let's say if you don't have quantitative data, you have rank data. Rank data is dealt by Spearman correlation and Kendall's tau. So these two really deal with the rank order data. So you have a rank order data. So how exactly that you are going to do the correlation? Then you will have to actually choose this particular Spearman or Kendall, since we have already gone through in terms of details, like how exactly the Spearman really can be calculated, how Kendalls can be calculated. So now there are other types of data as well. We have something called as, not just about rank. Okay, so there is actually a nominal data. For example, you have something like male and female. So what is this type of data? This type of data is actually called as nominal data. There is nothing like an order. You can't really say that male is greater than female or female greater than male. They are just two classes, right? Having the property or not having the property, true or false. Okay, is again a nominal data. So it is not like one is greater than the other. You have like two conditions, right? So that is a nominal data. Nominal data can be more than two. Basically, you can say that, oh yeah, you have four colors, red, blue, yellow, white. Now you are actually having data related to your red color, blue color, white color, and something else. So this is nominal data. There is nothing like greater or less, and this is the sort of data that you are actually trying to deal with. So in the nominal, it can be, so there is a term called as dichotomous. What is dichotomous? Is when you have true or false, male or female. When you have two choices, 0 or 1, then it is called as dichotomous. Okay. And now in the dichotomous, there is a sub-classification again, which is called as a truly dichotomous, and there is an artificial dichotomous. Okay, so now we are concentrating upon dichotomous data. I hope everybody understood what dichotomous data is. Dichotomous data is nothing but is a nominal data. Okay, and nominal data which has got only two choices, true or false. Property is there or not there. Whether whether person is rich or poor. There is nothing which is intermediate. There are only two choices. Okay, so that is dichotomous. So any questions on understanding what the definition of dichotomous is? So I hope everybody is clear on what is the dichotomous data is.
Praveen, sorry, can you please explain what dichotomous means again?
Dichotomous means it is a nominal data. What is nominal data? Nominal data is about having just names. For example, you have something like you have a data, you are comparing whether intelligence is dependent on gender. Okay, so whether there is any correlation between gender and intelligence. So now keep the intelligence apart, but one of the variables that you are dealing with is gender. So gender has got male or female. You have two choices. Okay, so in case of nominal data, you have choices, but there is no order. You can't really say that male is greater than female, female is greater than male. Whereas if you have something like ranks, you can always say that, okay, one first rank is better than second rank is better than third rank. So that is ordinal data. In case of nominal, you just have labels. You have, let's say, you have another example of nominal data is you have something like colors. You are dealing with colors, red, blue, yellow, white, something like that, right? There is no order. You can't really say, if somebody asks you, keep these colors in the ascending order or descending order, can you actually do it? You can't really do it. There is nothing like an order as far as nominal data is concerned. You just have names to it. You just have labels to it. Okay. And in the nominal subclass, now you understood what nominal is. Now the subclass of nominal is dichotomous. Dichotomous is just binary data. That means you have only two choices. Like I said, in colors, I have four colors. But when it comes to gender, I have only male and female. Right? So when you have only two variables in the nominal data, then it is called as dichotomous.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So anywhere like true or false kind of a thing.
Okay.
Right? You are trying to actually check the property or whatever property status, whether somebody has got a property or not. The data that you would end up collecting is whether he has got a property or he doesn't have a property.
Yeah, decide between two.
Decide between two. That is dichotomous.
Yeah, got
so
it.
now under dichotomous, there is something called as a truly dichotomous and something called as an artificially dichotomous. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is this truly dichotomous data? So let's say I'm trying to measure the mood of a person. Okay. And I measured the mood in terms of whether he is happy or whether he is not happy. Okay. So happy mood, not happy mood. So now what is this type of data? It is a dictomous because I have happy mood or non-happy mood. There is no third choice, right?
Okay.
But is mood really dictomous? No, right? I mean, there is something which is intermediate as well.
Yes.
But
Yes.
just that you are not able to measure it, but it is not that mood is truly dictomous. It is like the mood can vary between happy and not so happy as well.
Yes.
There is something which is in between. But your measurement, while you are measuring it, while you are interpreting it, you are making it dictomous to make it easy for you to analyze,
Okay.
right? So that is artificial dictomous. So the data is not really dictomous, but you made it dictomous because of various reasons. Okay, so it can be, it can be
Mandatory
the express.
action. Thing like that.
Yeah. What is that?
Okay. Mandatory something you mean? I mean, you really have to do a choice between those two.
Correct. You are so for your correlation, you are only taking the two values, the happy and not so happy, not happy, right? But the data as such, the true nature of the data is not really that two scales. I mean, it's just that you don't have a measurement in between. I
Okay.
mean, the way that you want to conduct method, you actually, just thought I will only measure happy mood and not happy mood because you are talking about, let's say, a correlation between mood and performance in the test. Let's say you are trying to correlate,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you want to check whether one person who is in happy mood performs well, or it doesn't matter whether you are happy or not happy. It doesn't matter. So that is what you want to correlate. Basically, your experiment itself is mandating that I'm going to check only happy, not happy. My intention is not to really measure accurately the mood, saying that he is 0.5 happy or 1.5 happy or something like that. Here, my experiment only says that, okay, yeah, whether if somebody is in a happy mood, does he perform the test well? That is what is the correlation that I am trying to actually check. So
Yeah.
in this experiment itself, I am trying to measure a not so continuous, a continuous variable in the dictomous way. That is artificially dictomous.
Okay.
Something is compelling, whether my type of experiment or the way that I am measuring, something is converting that dictomous variable into artificial. I mean, not dictomous variable into a dictomous variable. That is artificial dictomous. What is true dictomous? Now, if the variable is truly having only two choices, gender, male or female. Okay, so basically, it is truly dictomous. There is nothing like, I mean, I'm not talking about LGBT and all other things. I'm trying to make the example simple. Uh, I couldn't find any better example. Like, yeah, maybe property, right? Whether somebody has got a property or he doesn't own a property. So it is truly dictomous. There is nothing in between. He owns or doesn't own, right? So that is a truly dictomous data. Okay, so artificial dictomous data is underlying data is not dictomous, but you are making a dictomous. Truly dictomous data is something which is really dictomous. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
now you understood about what is dictomous and what is not dictomous.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
now various types of correlation depends on what is the type of data that you are going to deal with. As I said before, the way that you choose the algorithm is based on what exactly that the data that you are trying to deal with. If your data is all quantitative, right, you are dealing only with the quantitative data, then it is Pearson algorithm that you are going to use. So Pearson really, talks about quantitative data. Okay, if you have rank data, then you are going to deal with Spearman, right? You have rank order, you have Spearman, and you have also Kendall's, which can actually deal with this particular rank order correlation. Okay, so now if you have a dictomous data, okay, so then there is a variety of algorithms that really comes into play. For example, if you have one type of data truly dictomous and the other type of data which is quantitative, that means it is continuous, then it is point biserial. You have both variables dictomers. Okay, you have both variables dictomers. That means it is phi coefficient. Okay, and you have one of the data artificially dictomers and one of the data quantitative. Then it is biserial. Okay, and if you have both the data artificially dictomers, then it is tetrachronic. Okay, so net to net, I'll anyway go through these particular algorithms again, but net to net, what you need to understand at this stage is, depending upon the type of the data, I'm choosing one of these four, whether it is point biserial, whether it is phi, whether it is biserial, or whether it is tetrachronic.
I mean, how do
Okay.
you remember these 4 items? It's very confusing.
Okay, I'll give you a very easy way to remember. Okay, can you see biserial word here?
Yes, point biserial.
So
No.
biserial,
There are
point
two.
biserial and biserial. Both
Okay.
are biserial, right?
Yes.
So both has got a word biserial.
Yes.
Okay. So what it means is they are mixed data. That means mixed data is one data is quantitative. Okay. The moment it comes biserial, one data is quantitative data, that is continuous data. The other data is either truly dictomous or artificial dictomous. When it is point, it is true. When there is no point, it is artificial.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Got
Okay.
it.
Now comes to the rest of the thing. Phi coefficient. Okay. Phi coefficient, both the data, phi coefficient are tetrachronic. Okay. What we are saying is both the data are dictomous is what we are saying in case of phi or tetrachronic. Okay. Phi
Okay.
is true. Tetrachronic, both artificial. Phi, both true. Tetrachronic, both artificial.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So yeah, and if you are confused at any point of time, you can probably utilize this particular diagram where I kind of try to give certain examples and other things. I mean, you can just click on it and it can actually talk about uh, uh, what it is related to and how exactly it is related to, etc. So not only we have related to correlation, I have other things as well, like how hypothesis testing would be done when there are more than two variables, how exactly ANOVA would be done. So you have ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, how they are related to independent, repeated, etc. I mean, this is kind of just bringing all the algorithms that we have in syllabus into one diagram, actually. Okay. So anyway, so now we understood how exactly these correlations are really, dictated based on this particular type of data. Okay. So now I'll go through these one by one. So I'm going to repeat what exactly I told right now with the examples and other things so that we are clear. Okay, what we are actually saying is, so I'll first of all tell what kind of questions that are going to come about these particular things so that you guys can concentrate on exact things, right? So so it is not as usual as the rest of the correlations. Spearman and Kendall's is the one which comes the most. You can see all the first ones are Spearman and Kendall's. And Spearman and Kendall's, they ask to solve the problem. So you would really require to even solve, compute. Whereas the other correlations, there is no problem that it would be to be solved. So we don't really have to go through the procedure of solving it. Okay, whether they are tough to solve, no, not really. It's just that they don't ask for it. So what the question generally comes for 2 or 3 marks per thing. If point biserial correlation for 3 marks, tetrachronic for 3 marks, hence it is total 6 marks. Right? When it actually asks only one, it is 3 marks. So what you really require to explain, you would really require to explain what kind of data that these would really deal with, which we already discussed to some extent, and give an example of that particular data. Okay, and that's all. right? I mean, basically, you just have to. So there are few points which I will anyway go through, which we can actually do. So first is point biserial correlation. So what this point biserial correlation we talked about, it is truly dictomous data. One variable is truly dictomous, the other data is continuous. So the moment you see the biserial, imagine that it has got one data which is continuous. Only the other data, whether it is truly or artificial, that's the only thing. When it is a point, it is truly dictomous. Okay. And significance testing, we already know that, okay, yeah, there is something called as a significance testing that would be done for every algorithm for that matter. Just to make sure that whatever the conclusion that we are actually taking, we are not really concluding it with a small sample or irrelevant sample. We are actually, just checking whether whatever the thing that I am actually proving is significant or not. So generally, most of the algorithm significance testing would be done using t-test. Okay, in certain cases, there would be chi-square as well. I'll anyway go through for what and why when exactly it would be deviated as such. Right? For point biserial, truly dictomous data and continuous variable. The way that it is measured is actually speaking, all correlations really come up to covariance divided by standard of x, standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y. Okay. So ultimately, it really falls into that. Okay. Whether you really require to remember this particular formula may not be, because nobody is asking you to solve the problem. Okay. The other thing that we will really have to make sure that we write is the example. Right. So the example, as I said, so now one variable is truly dictomous and the other is continuous. Okay, so here, if you see this, a drug A or drug B, you are just checking whether depression really improves, whether depression has got any correlation with the drug A or drug B, right? So basically, you have one data which is either drug A or drug B, and you have the other data where depression is calculated on a scale. So depression data is in the continuous variable, whereas the drug data is either A or B, right? So the next one is, who is going to earn more as nurses, men or women, right? We are talking about gender versus earning here. So gender is either men or women. So it is truly dictomous. Earning is a continuous variable. So we have one continuous variable and one truly dictomous. That is exactly what we are doing here. So I think my sharing is gone now.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it is connecting. Okay, so anyway, I'll keep talking. So while it is connecting. Okay, so the next one. So did we understand what is point biserial correlation? Okay, so I take it as yes. So phi coefficient. So before phi coefficient, let me cover biserial, because point biserial and biserial has got a commonality, which is one is continuous variable, right? The other one is just a, so here we are talking about, it is very similar to point biserial correlation. Only thing is, this has got that instead of truly dictomous, it is an artificially dictomous data. And the other variable is still continuous. The example can be, you, as I said, mood and depression level, happy and sad, whereas dictomous depression level can be measured in a continuous variable, right? So so mood can be like, yes, high mood or low mood, you can probably happy or not happy. So this is like an artificially dictomous data, and this is a continuous data. So you are trying to actually correlate the mood and depression. Okay, so so that is about biserial correlation. So there is a formula for the same. As I said again, I mean, you don't really have to bother about doing the sum or whatever it is. And biserial correlation would also actually take the p-test. So it is not written over here, but it is the t-test which is used to calculate the significance level as far as this particular biserial is concerned. Okay, so now comes to a point. Okay, now the phi coefficient. So phi coefficient is both variables are dictomers. There is nothing like which is a not which is a continuous variable. Both variables are dictomers. And the significance testing, when both variables are dictomers, is done using chi-square. Okay. So this is where phi coefficient and tetrachronic, they actually go with chi-square testing for the significance. Whereas point biserial and biserial go with the p. Okay. And the formula is the same as Pearson correlation. Actually speaking, even these formulas, when you actually go and really calculate, it is covariance of x and y divided by standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y, which is same as Pearson correlation. That's exactly what this particular formula would be. So the same case with phi coefficient, where the way that you would really solve phi coefficient is very similar to where you solve Pearson correlation. Okay, and the example of phi coefficient is relationship between the gender and ownership of a property. Both are dictomous data and both are truly dictomous. Male and female, in case of gender, ownership of the property, yes or no, whether the property is owned by them or not. Okay, so here we are not evaluating the property valuation. We are just checking the ownership, whether they own a property or not. Yes or no in this particular case, male or female in this particular case, both are truly dictomous data. Okay, and now come to tetrachronic. So tetrachronic is exactly similar to whatever that we are actually seeing in the phi coefficient. And only thing is, instead of truly dictonomous, it is artificially dictonomous. So you have both, I mean, they are just measured in a dictonomous way, but underlying structure is continuous. Okay, so if you understand what is the type of data, I think you can easily make up the examples for all of these. So only point that we should, I mean, from the exam point of view, we should remember is, okay, yeah, which one is for what type of data? That's the only thing. Okay, so that's about these 4 correlations. Any questions here? I can shift to these multi variable correlations and other things in case if we are okay with whatever that we learned until now on these things. Okay, I see it as yes. Okay, so let me just go through the other types of correlations. Until now, whatever that we have actually seen is only about these. So now we are actually going, you have a correlation and you want to actually see correlation between 2 variables. Whatever that we read until now, whether it is Pearson correlation, whether it is Spearman correlation or any other correlation, irrespective of the type of data, we are dealing with only 2 variables, right? 2 variables, whether even if it is a rank data, Spearman, if it is a quantitative data, Pearson, if it is a dictomous data, if it is a true dictomous data, something else, artificial dictomous data, something else. But we are always talking about 2 variables. But what if you have more than 2 variables? You are trying to actually judge the correlation between 3 different variables. You are just saying all the 3 are correlated or not. Okay, again, when we are saying all the three are correlated or not, you are just checking the correlation, not really finding the causation here. The concept of correlation doesn't change with respect of the number of variables, right? So still the correlation coefficient will be between 1 and -1, and all those basic things about correlation doesn't change. Okay, but when you have more than two variables, there are different set of algorithms that really come into play, right? So those are partial correlation, semi-partial correlation, and multi-part correlation. Okay. So what is partial correlation? So you have three variables. You have three variables A, B, C. Okay. You are not really interested to actually find out the correlation between all the ABCs. You are only interested to find out relationship between A and B. Okay. You are interested to find whether A is correlated to B or not. But what you are worried about is the C variable. It can influence both A and B. Okay. So basically what we are saying is there is a third variable which is capable of influencing both A and B. Okay. So scenario is I want to find correlation between A and B, but I'm worried about the third variable, which is C, which is capable of really disrupting my findings. So this C variable can influence the correlation between A and B. Okay, so I'll give anyway the example. Let's say you have something like you are trying to actually find out the correlation between the the academic achievement and intelligence. Okay, and you might actually see that okay there is something like an anxiety as a third variable which can influence both the intelligence part and academic achievement part. Okay, so anxiety can actually affect the intelligence level and also it can actually affect the academic achievement level. So now you want to take the influence of anxiety out. I don't want anxiety to affect my academic achievement or intelligence. And then I want to actually, find out the relationship between academic achievement and intelligence. Okay. So what I should actually do, I should keep anxiety constant. I should say that, oh yeah, this anxiety should be on this particular level as a constant scale. And then I will check the academic achievement and intelligence and then find the correlation between these two. So that means I'm removing the effect of anxiety from academic achievement, and also I'm removing the effect of anxiety from the intelligence, and then trying to correlate these two. So that is called as a partial correlation. Okay. So partial correlation is about three variables that we are talking about, A, B, C, in which the third variable is influencing the correlation. Hence, I am removing the influence of C from A and also removing the influence of C from B. And then I am trying to match AB. Okay. So basically, I am deducting C from both A and both B. By both A and B, I am removing this particular influence of C. So any questions until now? Is it clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay. So now there is a small variation in semi-partial. Okay. Semi-partial correlation is a very controversial correlation. So why I said as a controversial correlation? Because a lot of people lot of scientists has got an argument that semi-partial correlation is nothing but partial correlation. So they don't agree it as a separate correlation. So the reason being is, I'll explain what semi-partial correlation is. So in case of partial correlation, what we are saying, I'm going to deduct the effect of C from A, and also I'm going to deduct the effect of C from B. Okay. In case of semi-partial correlation, you are not going to detect the effect of C from both. You are going to detect the effect of C only from one. I'm going to remove the effect of C from A, but I'm not going to remove the effect of C from B. So basically, I'm not bothered about removing it from one of those particular variables. So I'm going to actually only remove the influence only from one of those particular variables, which is A or B, one of them, either A or B. I'm removing the influence of C, but I'm removing only from one. Okay, so then that becomes a semi-partial correlation. So very similar to partial correlation, but in this case, the speciality is about I'm not removing it from both, I'm just removing it only from one. Okay, that is the only difference between partial and semi-partial.
I
Is it
have
clear?
a question,
Yes.
Praveen. See, when we are removing the influence of C from A or B, do we have a concrete condition saying in these conditions we'll remove it from A and in these conditions we'll remove it from B, or is it case by case?
It is case by case, so there is no fixed rule set. So it is the type of experiment which would actually be determining that, right? So there is nothing like a fixed rule saying that, oh yeah, these variables should be in this way to remove it. So in what case you are going to use partial and what case you are going to use semi-partial, it is up to the person who is trying to actually correlate. With the same example of anxiety and academic achievement, I might say that, oh yeah, I'm not going to worry about what is the influence of anxiety on intelligence, but I am worried about what is the influence of anxiety on academic achievement. It's not that I'm saying that anxiety cannot affect the intelligence. It's just that I'm not bothered about it. Okay. So I'm going to have intelligence as combination of anxiety and intelligence, whereas I want to have academic achievement taking out the anxiety out. So as the person who is doing research, I can take a decision on this. So that is where it is always contested, saying that, okay, yeah, is semi-partial really, qualified to be a valid case or not? A lot of people has got a for argument, a lot of people has got a negative argument, where it doesn't really qualify to be a separate one, because if you are thinking that C cannot influence both, then it doesn't really matter of removing it from the one. Okay, so basically you can still keep it as a variable which is like at a constant level and then do the experiment. So partial correlation would not really arise. The case would not arise. That is the argument against the semi-partial correlation. Okay, but nevertheless, in our syllabus, I don't think those arguments are there. Whether semi-partial is valid or not valid, and those kind of arguments are not there in our syllabus. So from our point of view, yes, semi-partial correlation is also there, and partial correlation is also there. And the difference between these two is partial correlation, C effect is removed from both A and B. In case of semi-partial, C effect is removed only from one of those, either A or B. Okay. So now what is multi-part? So multi-part is not about removing C from the equation. Multi-part is about I'm finding the correlation altogether. I'm just correlating A, B, C. I'm saying that, yeah, I have a correlation which says, oh yeah, all three ABCs are related, or ABCs are correlated. They are so, but I'm not really talking about two comparisons here. I'm talking about multiple comparisons here. So not just about three variables, it can have n number of variables. Okay, so I'm just so here the correlation is not removing the any of one of those particular instance. It is just about I'm finding out what is this particular multiple correlation. So how it is correlated. Okay, the way it is determined is when multiple correlate. So how exactly you are going to deduce from the multiple correlation? You are going to take one of them and say academic achievement is correlated with anxiety and intelligence. That's how you are going to conclude in case of multiple correlation. You're going to keep one as a pivot, saying that, you will separate one of those variables and you correlate with rest of the variables. So when you are writing the thesis or when you are writing this particular hypothesis, you are going to say, A is correlated with B and C. And it has got a positive correlation and it is very strong or weak, whatever it is. Right? So that's how you actually go ahead, write the hypothesis. But it is about, we are talking about more than one variable as far as multi-part correlation is concerned. Okay. So any questions on partial, semi-partial, multi-part?
Well, in multi-part, can it be a combination of positive and negative correlations for other variables which are compared?
So the way that you would actually calculate, you calculate between A and B, B and C, A and C. Yes, it could be combination of positive and negative. But when you combine all of them and say whether A is correlated with B and C, you would have only one, either positive or negative. When you combine it, you end up having only one coefficient. But in the formula, the way the formula is actually dictated is how the multi-part correlation is done is you would find the correlation between A and B, and then you will find the correlation between B and C, and you will find the correlation between A and C, and then you have a formula combining all the three coefficients that you have. So there is a R square AB plus R square AC minus 2RA, RAC, RAB, etc., etc. Okay, so when you are finding individual coefficient, that is A and B, C and B, A and C, you might end up saying that, okay, between A and B, you have negative. In between A and B, A and C, you might have positive. So there could be positive, negative that would be coming out, but these are intermediate steps. Okay. So these are intermediate steps. The final step that you are actually trying to do is you are going to find out only one correlation. That is whether A is correlated with B and C. So this final step will have only one direction, either positive or negative.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
So these all coefficients, be it P coefficient or partial, biserial, whatever, all these coefficients hold the same rule of interpreting the results. Positive is positive correlation, negative is negative, weak is less than 0.3, like that, right?
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Can you go back to the questions from this unit 3,
Yeah.
Group 2?
So in this, majority of the questions is on regression, which we are yet to go through. Okay, so
For
rest is
correlation,
about,
partial and semi, are there any questions? No, right?
no, there are no questions, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, but this is regression, no, sorry. Why did I go to this? Multi-partial, there would be questions. But yeah, there are a couple of.
This is bivariate. Huh? I think unit 3.
So this is the one, no?
Partial.
Unit 3.
Hmm.
So it asked for suitable examples. Okay, and yeah, it didn't ask for question solving, or rather solving a problem, but it asked for explaining this with the suitable example. So you might have to write some kind of a theory explaining this particular concept of A, B, C, and give an example, and then describe it. Okay. So any other questions or things that you would want to understand? In case of multi-part correlation, it uses F-test to find the significance. Semi-partial and partial, they use t-test again. But in case of multiple correlation, it uses F-test, F distribution. Okay, so in case if there are no questions, I think we can conclude. Now, Ritika, you can probably stop recording.
Kritika isn't there, I suppose.
No, he is there. I think.
Praveen, you're the host, right?
Yeah.
So you can stop recording.
Just checking.